Power hour. It's the what? Power hour. It's the who? Power hour. Yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Power hour. It's the what? Power hour. It's the who? Power hour. Yeah. Blacks, Hispanics, and
So it's funny, right? I was watching this whole thing. Man, you saw the video of the Trump supporters like praying in front of the I think that was in Georgia, the Clark County office.
Yep.
And they were like, they were on their knees like doing a seance with their MAGA hats. Like please change the numbers, please change the numbers, please let, this guy win. It's funny though, because I also saw a bunch of other videos where our people are elated. They're all over the place, like when Barack Obama won.
Hanging out of windows, banging pots and pans.
I mean, they're just delighting in this stuff. It's crazy because I tell you what, that really, I got no skin in the game with this, right? The scriptures tells us that God will set our ruler up over us. Can we get that? You know where that's at exactly? Yeah. Let's get that real quick. Just so as we talk about this, you understand me, right? Because I will say this. I really kind of deep down wanted Trump to win again. Just so our people can continue to see kind of what this place really thinks of us. And it still kind of shows that because it was a very divided race. Like everything was almost 50-50. Like a lot of none of these states were necessarily blowouts as they were won. So yeah, they say he's gonna win by one of the largest popular vote margins ever. But you look at the percentages across the board, right? Because California is always gonna go blue. New York's always gonna go. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole Western seaboard goes blue, right? And that's like the bulk of the Democrats' things. But if you look at it by and large, it's the majority of the country is that so-called red. And that red, it was only because of urban centers in some of these cities that he won this stuff. But my point was, I couldn't help but just look, and I'm like, gosh, I don't think people are going to realize just how divided they are, right? Because don't forget, if by your rationale, and by y'all that were all into these politic things, Trump was so terrible, he should have been blown out the water. It shouldn't have been this contentious.
Right.
It shouldn't have been this tight, the race. I mean, I think you're talking about in Georgia, he was up by only like 4,000 votes. I think it's like 40,000 here. Basically, it's still a tight race, whatever that electoral college nonsense and whatever says. But I was just laughing as I sat there because I said, hey, at the end of the day, it's still an old white man running the country.
Yeah. Our people are going to be all ignorant. Black Lives Matter showed up and showed out. Our voice was heard. It's the illusion of inclusion.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's a two-headed snake is what it is. It is what it is.
It's a confederacy that's global. World leaders don't even want to deal with this guy anymore. And we're going to kind of segue into that because we're going to talk about foreign policy a little bit, right? So we're going to talk about foreign policy of the United States. So before we get into that, let me see where I want to go in here, Maccabees.
The Mac.
All right.
Bring it out.
Let's check this out, right? Because you have to understand that we're going to do 1 Maccabees 8, I believe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The United States is an extension of Rome, right? And they're an extension of Greece and, basically every Edomite thing that came before him, right? So let's read 1 Maccabees 8, verse 1.
This is the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them.
Right, so he's talking about Rome here, but I'm going to show you the parallels between Rome, as it was on the rise, and then the power that they have, and the similarities between Rome and the USA, because it's the same recipe. They just maybe added some embellishments. Somebody wrote systemic deception. That's a very strong term, and that's accurate. So I would say it's the same recipe, but more lines so that you have more of a systemic deception
That's right.
going on, right? So it says the fame of the Romans, the fame of the USA. Man, let me tell you something. Nobody here in America gives a crap about when the president of Russia's having elections, when the president of the Ukraine, when China's having elections, when Korea's having elections, elections. They definitely don't give a crap about any countries in Africa if they have any type of elections, right? Nobody cares about who's in power everywhere else in the world. But the whole world watches here. Why was the BBC doing vote counts and state counts and everything the same way? Al Jazeera, the same way. All these foreign news outlets were watching America. Listen, there's many terms for the president of the United States. One of the ones that I think people don't realize, especially the ones that try to crap on the stuff we bring out in the scriptures about who that man is, right? Who that mystery Babylon the Great is. You cannot say it's any other nation. You cannot say it's the Arabs. You cannot say it's Great Britain. And I'm gonna tell you why just with this one thing. He's called, President of the United States is called the most powerful man in the world. Yep. By everybody in the world.
Yep.
They call this office the most powerful man in the world. The most powerful man in the world. And you got to let that resonate as we read this stuff, for you to be fooled and deceived to think that it's anybody else but here. People are like, oh, countries have their own sovereignty and stuff like that. I'm going to show you some stuff that in the scriptures, how the Romans rolled, and you're going to see that that's the same way the United States rolls. That's the same way so-called America rolls. And I was reading an article the other day. I wish I would have saved it. I was going to screenshot it. And it basically said the whole world is watching because they know their agendas for their countries gets a lot further, and some of them can't even be considered unless the U.S. gives the cosign on it.
That's right.
That's how heavy that stuff is. That's how heavy that stuff is. And that's why it's going to be so easy, because it's not like they do it with love and adulation. They do it because they know the position that they're in. They know who calls the shots. And that's why it's going to be so easy for them to turn on the United States when the Most High puts it in their hearts to do so.
No, and then this chapter and these verses that we're going to get into is actually going to say that exact same thing.
Yep.
That the U.S. co-signs everything.
Yep. So we're gonna read through the whole thing. So keep going.
And that they
Verse 2.
Verse 3.
Verse 2. We are.
Verse 2. And that they were.
I'm sorry. I wanna go over the last line in verse 1 again. It says, and Rome, just much like the USA, it says, so the fame of Rome is the fame of the USA. And it says, and such as would lovingly accept all that join themselves unto them.
Right.
So, meaning, if you play ball by their rules, they will accept you. The United States will accept you, right? It says, and they will make a league of amity with all that came unto them, meaning our allies. Okay, you're my ally. You're my ally. And you see what it's like if you're not their ally. You see what's going on in Venezuela.
I was going to say that.
And you would say, and it don't matter how much money you have. It don't matter how much resources you have. If you're not on board with the collective, starting with the United States, then you're going to be sanctioned to hell. And you're going to have civil unrest and not have resources. You're going to have things like Cuba. You're going to have things like North Korea.
Yep.
It's levels of poverty that you can't even imagine.
Lego.
Israel is back.
We back.
Israel is back.
We
got
back.
the nations running scared because Israel is back. All eyes on us, cause we keeping them laws. When the Lord return, Babylon will fall. Precepts solid. We got them on lock. God's chosen people with Christ as our rock. Israel is back.
We back.
Israel is back.
We back.
You heathen, get ready for our whip to crack.
Damn.